Welcome to Bad Dog Agility, a podcast helping you reach all of your dog agility goals. Whether it's competing under the bright lights of the televised finals at Westminster or successfully navigating a homemade course in your own backyard, we'll bring you training tips, interviews, and news about the great sport of dog agility. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
The show starts with your hosts, Jennifer, Esteban, and Sarah.
I'm Jennifer.
I'm Esteban.
And I'm Sarah, and this is episode 378. Today's podcast is powered by Canine Handler Fitness with Liz Joyce, built for agility handlers who want to keep up with their dogs. With Liz's all-access pass, agility handlers at every fitness level can hop in right where they are and work towards their specific goals. From building strength and balance to boosting speed and stamina, these short, effective workouts target exactly what you need on course. Your dog's ready. Are you? Head to caninehandlerfitness.com to get started today. Today, we are very excited to be joined by special guest Amber McCune, newly minted Westminster Masters Agility Champion. Welcome to the podcast, Amber.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited.
Awesome. And we were talking just a little bit before the podcast, and I'll just kind of jump right in with your background in Westminster, because I had seemed to remember that you have won your class a few times, but this is the first time that you have won the whole thing.
Yeah, I won with Kaboom in 2017, 2018, and 2022. Then Howie in 2023, Typo 2024, Shelby in 2025, Prove It in 2026. But this is the first time that I've been the overall Masters champion, which is pretty crazy. I only thought that was always going to just be my big white whale I would never achieve. So it was pretty cool that my baby did it.
Right. So let's take a step back and talk about Westminster for a bit. So that was just this past weekend as we're recording in New York. And tell us a little bit about the venue. Is this the second year that it was at this venue?
Yeah, this is the second year that it's been at Javits. It used to be years ago at the pier. Mm-hmm. Then we moved to, what was the castle? I forgot what the castle was called.
Lyndhurst.
Lyndhurst. We went to Lyndhurst, and then we went to the tennis stadium, which was so amazing. And now we're at Javits.
Is that a bit of a letdown?
It is a little bit. Like, I love being in the city. I thought the pier was wonderful. Yeah. Because when you're in the city, you have the crowd, and it's so amazing just to be in that environment. But Javits is not my favorite of all the locations, mostly because it's a little awkward to get to, and the rings have gigantic poles in them. But the judges did a fantastic job this year designing with the poles. I have to say, vastly different than last year. They really worked hard at that. But Javits is just a whole different vibe to me. It's more of like a business vibe, if you will,
right.
Versus the pier was just kind of rocking, and sorry, my dogs are going crazy downstairs. So it's, the tennis stadium was obviously just phenomenal. Right. That just emitted the most amazing feeling when you walked in there.
And I would agree on my end that the tennis center was my favorite, partly because not only is the facility amazing, but it wasn't the dead of winter. So getting into New York City with the weather and then dealing with the freezing cold. And this year, I mean, even just taking the dogs outside, you had to watch like their feet. And as soon as they would get on ice, I mean, I got like 22 seconds before B would start limping around with the temperature. So not only was the tennis center just one of the cooler facilities, I just liked not being in the dead of winter and having a little bit better weather and a little bit better experience. Everybody, I felt like, is just like so bundled up and secluded, and you're not having quite as much of the moving around and camaraderie that I feel like you've had at some of the other facilities. But I think, correct me if I'm wrong, anybody, but I think when Westminster first said they were going to the Javits Center, they did say it was for 2 years, which would mean it was over this year, but they haven't said whether or not they're going to do a different location or extend, that I have heard. Like, I knew it was 2 years when they initially went there, but the question is, are they extending, or are they going to try something different? So it'll be interesting for sure to see what they do.
I'm waiting for the day that agility, I feel like the next leap will be when they put it in Madison Square Gardens. We had talked to Paul Campanella about that. Like,
MSG.
was there ever a possibility? I think that one day it will do that. Like Crufts is in those humongous, facilities. I think maybe one day we could do that.
Maybe. Yeah.
So let's talk about, I guess, both of your results. We'll start with Jen and end with Amber. So Jen, which dogs did you take? I did see B in the finals. We were watching, live on our TV, but how did your weekend go?
Yeah, so I ended up running 4 dogs. B gets her automatic invite from being the overall champion in 2022. So her entry gets guaranteed. And then I entered 2 dogs. So I entered my 2 border collies, Surprise and High Five. And then I ended up running one of my mom's dogs because she had a surgery last year, was hoping to be back and recovered and able to run, but she was not. So I stepped up and ran one of them. And my friend Abby stepped up and ran the other one. I was not unhappy with my Westminster performance. The irony of the whole thing is that I played out identical to last year, to the faults, not only just the placements and what dogs made finals, but to the fault as well. B and High Five made finals. Last year in finals, B turned the wrong way off of a jump and ended up with second. This year, she turned the wrong way off of a jump, ended up with second. This year, she wasn't going to win. Last year, I felt like the turn cost her the win. This year, I don't think it did. So it didn't cost us anything there. And then last year, High Five made finals and leaped over the dog walk. And this year, she made finals and leaped over the dog walk. We have very much a theme going here. And even in the prelims, last year Surprise had one beautiful clean run, got second place, faulted in the other. This year Surprise had one beautiful clean jumpers run, won the class, faulted in the other. So I'm not unhappy at all. I ran 4 dogs. I got 2 dogs in the finals. B got second place again. I'm not unhappy. It's just the irony of okay, I'm ready to move from the Javits Center because we know what my results are going to be. Like if next year is there, we can make a good prediction. So no, I was very pleased with my performance this weekend.
And so we watched it and I didn't even notice you turned the wrong way. So when you say wrong way, was it the kind of the wrap back where you could choose which way to turn and you intended to turn
off the dog walk? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Poor handling, 100% just crappy handling, both last year and this year. I could come up with a million reasons and excuses and tell you why, but all you need to know is that it was a handling error.
Her dog walk was ridiculous though. Like even on video, I was like, holy cow. She skipped the entire down ramp except for the yellow.
She did not. She did not do the same, that one hit that Nimble and Ironman did. They jumped from the top straight into the contact.
Right.
B did have a great dog walk. She did do her 4-stride dog walk.
Right.
The way that the angle was set up off of the dog walk, if you applied pressure to the left too soon, my fear was the backside. And we do so much dog walk backside, dog walk backside, dog walk backside. I trained so much dog walk backside because of the international skills. And so my concern was if I would apply pressure to the left too soon, that she would read it as the backside. So I waited to apply pressure to the left for the rear cross. And as a result, didn't cue it early enough. And I wasn't the only one. There were several others who shall remain nameless who also were intending to go left and did not get the turn to the left. And of the ones that I'm thinking, they also do a lot of international and ISC skills. I didn't talk to the handlers after the fact, but I certainly think that was a factor. I know the judge had commented to several of the competitors that he wanted to do. Dan Wolfson wanted to do a threadle off the dog walk, but it was turned down to be too premier. And I was like, I would have been fine with that. That would have actually been better because you could have done it from behind. Right. So you can do that one from behind, but the rear cross, you have to be applying that pressure to the left. And I did not apply enough pressure. Both because of the backside. And then also I was managing jump number 8. And so I didn't get as far ahead and I wasn't running fast enough. So needless to say, we got to turn the wrong way. I don't think it was enough based on all the overlays and the studying I've done in the last 24 hours. it wasn't enough to catch Ironman. Where last year I felt like it did cost me more. But she did it really well. She turned really well.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
it wasn't what I wanted, but she did it really well. But the course design this year was awesome. I thought, as Amber commented, they did a phenomenal job working around the poles. I even said something to somebody and I was like, yeah, they did great with the poles. And they stopped. We were walking. They stopped and they're like, where were the poles? And I'm like, that tells you they did a really good job, because last year it was a much bigger problem. And I think it was just that last year, nobody really knew the size of the poles and how it would play out. And this year they had a lot more experience.
Right. And real quick, just indulge us, since, we have Jen, obviously, as a co-host on the podcast so often. How did it go with Savannah?
Savannah was good. It was, I'm not going to lie, Westminster was a lot. Not only did I have 8 runs, so 8 preliminary runs and 2 finals, I was helping out the Kennel Club themselves for a few presentations. So I had
I saw that. Yeah.
2 separate 30-minute presentations that I had to present on the Sensation stage, and a baby who is not taking a bottle, which means the one and only food source is me. So between managing the walkthroughs, the runs, the presentations, the baby, she was fantastic and great and traveled really well. But it certainly added in more complexity to things, but it wasn't her first big event. So we're learning to manage. Hopefully by NAC in California, we'll have a pretty good rhythm down.
Excellent. All right, Amber. So was Prove It the only dog that you had this weekend, or were you running other dogs as well?
No, I ran Prove It and Shelby Cobra. Shelby actually came in finals. I entered all 4, my typical Howie, Typo, Shelby, and Prove It. And Typo and Howie didn't even make the wait list. They were on the closeout list. So that was kind of a bummer, because I typically run 10 dogs a weekend, like this thing. I don't think I've ever been to Westminster without all of my dogs. It was a very weird experience, especially with my little Typo. My little Red Rocket didn't get to come, but I was at least grateful that I got in with 2, because I think a lot of people got shut out. There was a huge entry this year, bigger than I think any of the other years. Maybe it was gigantic.
Wow. Yeah. And so then how did it go? Like, how did you find your way into the finals?
Well, for me, since, we were at Javits last year, and this is new turf. This is Westminster's new turf that they bought for 2025, which was new. The turf prior to that was the same that I have in my building. And I think Jen has, and there's a couple other people, in the country, big trainers that have that older style grass tex, which is pretty grippy. But last year we realized that this new turf is a little bit softer, for the conformation handler. So when they kneel down, their nylons don't rip, and it's a little more for them to kneel down on. So going into this, I was very, very, very cautious about my dog's feet and how to prepare their feet adequately for this turf. I did a lot of research on what would work on this soft turf and how to prepare their feet. So going in, I felt confident that my dogs weren't going to fall, because last year it was complete crash and burn for Prove It. Jump 2, he slid through on his face. But this year he ran phenomenal. He placed 3rd in both the preliminary rounds to high 5. And Shelby Cobra won both preliminary rounds. So we were 1, 2, 3, both preliminary rounds. Shelby high 5, Prove It.
Yeah, they were a nice, consistent group of 20-inch dogs for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
But that means you were like this close to not making the finals, right? Because it would only be the top 3 border collies. So that's a pretty, pretty fortuitous thing to kind of be that last border collie before the no more border collies,
That's the thing in the 20-inch class is there's so many border collies that it's not just about running double clear. And you really have to push and go for it. Like I knew for me, I had to get top 3 because 4th place isn't going to get you in. So you're pushing and going for it, which is quite a bit different than my strategy with B, for example, because I think there were only 6 Shelties in the entire 16-inch class.
Where are all the Shelties?
Great. The 16-inch class was one of the smallest. It was the 24-inch was the smallest, and then 16, very small. But I think there were only 6 Shelties. So as I watched and I kind of knew what they were doing, it was a little bit more of the strategy with her of okay, just run clean, right? Because even if she's not top 3, we can shoot for being the top Sheltie. And I know, last year, same thing with the Sheltie and the 12-inch. The Sheltie and the 12-inch class actually got into finals with a fault. because of the breed thing. So the Border Collies, Amber and I know how to understand the scoring and what we need to do. And, you know, not just cruising and double queuing, but actually really pushing because there's so many great Border Collies there, all going for those top 3 spots.
Right.
Yeah, it's a very, very different format compared to our usual, you know, just kind of hang in that top just till you get the final, because it's not the top 10 dogs. It's the top Border Collies, and then different breeds are peppered in, and it's tight. Like we were pretty tight, the 3 of us.
Right. So you did mention the surface, and I want to talk a little bit about it, but you also mentioned preparing for it. So what did you do that worked so well for your dogs?
Well, I knew last year I tried, of all odd things, stripper pole spray. Strippers use it on their thighs.
Amber and I had this conversation at Westminster last year. We had a whole conversation with regard to surface last year at the event.
Mm-hmm.
That's funny.
So I tried that last year because in thought, you would think if a stripper can stick to a pole, it will make my dog stick to a floor. And it did not at all. I think it backfired. I think, you know, the dog hair that's on the floor as they walk to the ring, I think actually stuck to it. So they were running in slippers.
Right.
So I talked to a vet friend of mine, and, you know, I really made sure I shaved their feet completely bald, like no hair in the webbing, no hair anywhere. And I actually moisturized their feet with what they use for like sled dogs, Musher Secret, every day for a week leading up to it, because dry feet is really what makes them slide. And then the morning of, I sprayed their feet every half hour until I was about 5 dogs away. So I don't want their feet to be wet when I run them on the floor. Everyone wants to spray them right before they go in. And I don't think that really helps. But I think having a moisturized foot before they run actually worked. Because if you touch the bottom of your dog's foot, my dogs were kind of tacky, even just from being moisturized and then having water. And God's honest truth, if you watch my runs, they didn't really slide. It really worked. So, you know, testing that on just a carpet in the house, what works? You know, I tested maple syrup and honey and pine tar, all these weird things to see what would actually help them. Because, you know, we don't want them to fall.
Right.
But we understand that this is the surface that we have to run on if we choose to run on it. And I know some handlers chose not to run, which is fine. But I knew that the dogs that I had would definitely adjust, and they wanted to, you know, keep on their feet. They weren't like Typo would just kill himself. He doesn't care. He just runs. Right. But these 2 dogs are very savvy about where they put their feet. So I really tried to do the best I could to make it safe for them.
Right. Anything to add, Jen?
Yeah, for my dogs, it's very similar. Bee has a lot of pad and feet issues and has her entire life. So she's actually on 3 different procedure-y things that exist year round. Musher Secret is one of them every single day for now, I think almost 4 years. And then 2 actually other supplements. Gelatin apparently is what we were suggested. So she actually has gelatin in her food to help with her feet. And then I do the moisture in the water stuff as well. So Musher Secret, and I find all the same similar results as what Amber said, is that the softer the foot and the more moisturized, the better the grip. It's just like, you know, I think of like our hands, if they're really dry, they're just really like slippery. So keeping them soft and allowing for better grip. And then the spray bottle water trick of just kind of spraying their feet. And I will also add, and I was thinking it before even Amber said it, but the dogs that I was taking are ones that are relatively good at adjusting and being thoughtful about it. High Five in particular is not a super crazy, idiotic border collie. She's a pretty soft, pretty sensitive border collie. So all it takes is one little moment on the turf and she goes, okay, it's this, let me adjust. So I did a lot of tugging on the turf outside the ring. And at the practice jump, not that I was like trying to get her to fall. That was certainly not what I was trying to do. I was trying to let her know, hey, this is what the turf is. It's different than what we train on, so that she could make the adjustment for that.
Right. So what do you think? So that was all the adjustments that you made, right? What do you think about the turf? There's a lot of discussion online about, you know, it not being a good surface for agility and stuff like that. So any particular thoughts that you want to share along those lines?
I would agree that I don't think the turf is great for agility, but I also enter Westminster knowing that Westminster Kennel Club is not holding an event that is 100% agility.
Right.
They are holding an event that is confirmation, that is agility, and has other events. So where if you enter, whether it be a local agility trial or a bigger one, the Invitational or the National Agility Championship, you are there for one purpose. That event is being held for one purpose, and that is agility. For this particular event, we are one part of it. So it is finding the compromise of what's going to be the surface that's going to work for the confirmation dogs, the confirmation handlers, as well as the agility dogs. So do I love the surface? No. Am I going to go buy that surface and put it down in my facility? Absolutely not. Do I understand the challenge that Westminster is going to have to find the compromise of surface for everybody? Yes. I don't have an answer. I always say you can't complain about something you don't have a suggestion for. And that's the issue. My suggestion is a different surface for the day of agility, switch it out on Sunday, and a different surface for confirmation. Whether or not Westminster has the means to do that, I don't know. I'm not a club member. I don't know their ins and out of their logistics and their finances. And I think it's easy for people to sit there and say, well, they should do better. I don't think they're not trying. I don't think they want to sit there and see the dogs fall, but they also have to compromise the other population of participants across the board. So I would love for them to, at a bare minimum, try to make some adjustments, at least take our feedback and listen to it. I think a lot of that's going to depend on the manner in which people go about it. Kill them with kindness, express your concern, maybe offer some suggestions, but don't just send a nastygram off that somebody's going to be frustrated about and they're going to delete. So did I love the surface? No. Have I run on worse? Yes. Have I run on better? Yes. So it's not, I don't think, I say this, knowing it's a really far away, I don't think it would be enough to deter me from next year. Like if they said, hey, everything's going to be the same, would you go with my current dogs? Yes. But that's not to say that I wouldn't have a dog down the road or an adjustment that I make. I also would take into account the judges, what horses and what type of design are they going to do? I had pretty good faith that Dan and Heather were not only going to work with the poles, but work with good course design as well.
Let me ask a couple of quick clarifying questions. So then my understanding is at this particular facility, they brought in new carpet. And so they no longer were using the old carpet. And the reason for that is not because the old carpet was too worn or no good, but that they were somehow accommodating the confirmation people and the confirmation dogs. Is that right? And then confirmation is also taking place in the exact same venue on the same field as agility. Is that right?
I think the surface is the same as last year. They just brought in new. Like, I think it's just like kind of a sponsorship thing. Like, hey, we're going to give you a new turf because the turf from last year was sold to a facility out on the East Coast, right?
No, that was the year before.
Okay.
Okay.
Turf. This year's turf is the same as last year.
Got it.
The turf that we used to run on prior to 2025 was sold to a facility that's within 2 or 3 hours from here. Mm-hmm. Yes. Got it. But the turf from last year is that new company Field Turf. So whether last year and this year are new, it's the same company, which is that same soft.
Yes.
It's my understanding that it's the same turf as last year. They just roll it up and keep it.
Got
but
it.
The quote, good turf or grass tex, what Jen and I are used to, that was sold to a local club in New England.
Interesting.
And then I do believe they just leave the turf down and bring the confirmation right in on it. Yeah. So when we were there loading up on Saturday night, they were already getting ready to convert everything to confirmation. And they just take the big agility rings and divide it up into the confirmation rings.
Okay.
Ooh, that is interesting. So I'm hearing that this is the one time they use that particular turf. It's not used at any other time. So that there's not a wear factor. Because I know that there are some turfs, and I don't know if this is one of them, where the first few months, it, has a coefficient of friction of whatever, and that changes with use, right? And so as it kind of gets broken in and people are using it year round, then it becomes a little more accommodating. But if they are using this only once a year, then it's not going to change very much, right? Is kind of what it sounds like to me. And then, so I guess I guess this is a point of discussion here. And my only my only reference point is the old Reliant show that they used to do here. It used to be Astro Hall and then called Reliant when Reliant Energy became the sponsor. 4-day dog show here in Houston, and it was kind of the big highlight of the summer season. Indoors, air conditioning, hundreds of people and spectators. It's super fun, right? I think the spectators really made it. And they also brought in different surfaces, and they've tried dirt and turf and different things like that. But eventually, I think one of the things that killed it, because it has been years now since agility was a part of this, so they still have it, and we haven't been since. But a big issue was the surface, because I think agility people as a group are very sensitive, and not in a bad way, but very sensitive about surfaces and the impact on dogs, and people have dealt with injuries, sometimes catastrophic injuries, and they're going to look at that and say, look, it's not worth it to us, right? And even if Westminster as an organization, can continue to bring in entrants, right? So there are always going to be people who are willing to do that. I do feel like you need to have some quality dogs showing up. Not to say that there are non-quality dogs showing up, but that we want the sport well represented, both in terms of speed and ability, breed. I think region is a tough one. A lot of the dogs tend to be from the Northeast. It can be kind of hard to get in to that part of the country at this time of year. People are less willing to do that. Issues around weather, being in the city, not knowing how their dogs will do with camera and crowds and different things like that. But, I could see this being problematic going forward.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess I would caution the Westminster folks, like maybe spend a little time here and talk to some people.
Yeah, I guess my only thoughts, I totally get everything that Jennifer's saying. My idea is the same as yours, Jen. Just have, take the time that it takes to roll up one and put down another for confirmation. And I guess my kind of big picture is that I do believe Westminster is, one of the most important premier events in our sport. And I do kind of think about it kind of like Crufts and something like that. And I think that ultimately, maybe not next year, maybe not the year after, but ultimately, I think that Westminster should show the absolute best of conformation and the absolute best of agility. And if that means putting in a little bit more, time, effort, and money into, doing that. But agility is still relative. Like when you think about Westminster being is it the longest or the second longest, sporting event in the United States, continuous sporting event for over 100 years. And agility has been a part of it for 12, 13, 14. Yeah, 13. So we are actually still the baby of Westminster, and there's still room to improve and grow and integrate it into the bigger Westminster experience. And I feel like we are kind of doing that year after year with how they do things, and how they promote it, and how it's on TV, and how it's part of the big, the big event, where they bring in the, you, Amber, and we'll talk about that. In fact, that's probably a good segue to talking about your experience as the champion. So anyway, that's my thoughts as well. All right. Well, let's move on from there. Y'all already mentioned course design and how they did a great job with the polls. I think that's super important in figuring out that. Anything else you wanted to add about the course design, or just really happy with it?
I was happy with the courses. I thought it was great course design. It was laid out well. The dogs really got a chance to open up and extend, as well as to wrap and chip in places. I really liked the turn off of the dog walk in finals. Mm-hmm. I thought that was a wonderful option, and I crossed my fingers and hoped that Prove It would turn left. Fastest line. And, the pressure of the wall in the crowd is one thing, but I don't know if Jen noticed where the cameraman and where the leash runner, which happened to be Doug Hurley, was standing within about 8 feet of that left turn.
Wow.
So I thought that pressure was either going to help me make a nice tight turn there, or, a dog like Shelby, I knew that she would flick off and go left. She doesn't like that type of pressure. But if you watch the video, Pruvit literally lands at Doug's feet and hangs a hard left. So I honestly think that, the pressure of the people there and that cameraman right there actually helped me get a better turn, in all honesty.
Awesome. All right. So one thing that I love to talk to every Westminster winner about is kind of what comes after the win, and every year, it's different, and we're actually catching you pretty quick after. So I'm sure you'll have updates for us later about, the kinds of interviews you get and things like that. But, I guess catch us up on, what it has been like for you after winning the title of, Westminster Master Agility Champion.
Well, like I said before, I've won my height 6 other times, right? This is the 7th time I've won my height. So I've always thought this is going to be amazing. And I get to wear a sparkly dress, and purple's my favorite color. And, I have all these grand things that I'm going to do. And my mother's going to come because I come from confirmation. So I as a child, showed bloodhounds in confirmation in Madison Square Garden. That was like my thing.
Wow.
Yeah. So I got best of opposite when I was 15 with my mother's bloodhound. And that was like my one confirmation claim to shame. But, so I've always wanted to go back to Madison Square Garden and for agility,
Right.
And this year they changed it up apparently, because I've never won the overall before. So I didn't know what was to come. So I was told that there will be no sparkly dress. There will be no presentation for you. Literally, I was told that no presentation for you. You will do a demo for us. And it will be a race. You will do a run with Ironman, and you must do our course. So the experience for me, I think, was vastly different than I think some of the other winners. And I'm super grateful that I got to experience it. But the sparkly dress did not happen. It was run your purple polo and your typical leggings. And there was an 8 obstacle course that was on the turf in Madison Square Garden, kind of nested within the confirmation dog breed boxes. And we just had to kind of race around in a circle. And we had a minute to do it. And then we were pulled off of the course and told, thank you. Have a good night.
Oh, I'm so sad for you.
So I have so many questions.
It
so
was
many
the
questions.
weirdest experience because I was so excited, and so was Merritt, who was handling Ironman, and Carol, who was Ironman's owner. We were so proud of our dogs and proud of the achievement, but it was very weird. And I don't know if Jen's experience, from what I've heard, everybody else's experience has been this phenomenal, like, spotlight, and you're presented with the trophy and the ribbon. But this year, it wasn't that at all. And I'm not complaining in any way, shape, or form. I'm very, very grateful. But it was just very different. It was very confusing. There was 1 minute for us to do this race. And then we were asked to leave the turf. There was no ribbon. It was weird. It was just weird. I don't know how else to say it.
Did they announce a winner? Did you guys get an 8-minute walkthrough? Did you guys fault? I mean, like, was there a judge? Nope. There was a DJ, but it was a speed circle, and the turf in Westminster seemed even softer, if that makes sense, in Madison Square Garden. So Merritt, Carol, and I all said, we're not doing the course in this setup because our dogs are not going to be able to hit the weaves. Like, they're going to break their shoulder. So we changed the course a little bit. And I laid Pruvit down after the first 4 obstacles and then continued. And Merritt tried, and instead Ironman spun in a circle to slow him down. So,
I did get to see your guys' video. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we did our best to slow them down to make that safe. But there was no announcement as to, the big hoopla. It was, I don't know. It was just really weird.
I'm aware of why it was different. I don't know why they chose the format that they did. In terms of why it's been different than it has been in the past is because they removed obedience this past year. So this was the first year that obedience was not part of Westminster.
I did not realize that. Whoa.
Yeah. So in the past, what they did is they had the overall obedience winner and the overall agility winner. So there was only one person representing agility, and they brought them into Madison Square Gardens and they put them each at one end, and then they had their minute to demo. So the years that I did it, they would bring us out. They did do the award ceremony, so that they still could have done because we had to bring our ribbons. We turned them in. They would call us. We like stepped up onto that purple box that's in the center where like Best of Show goes in. We get our ribbons, and then they send us out to do a demo. So the obedience person goes to kind of one end of the field and they do an obedience demo. She does some healing, some signals. She does the dumbbell. And then for me, they gave me 3 obstacles and told me to do agility for a minute. So I had a tunnel, a tire, and a jump. And I had to do a minute-ish of demoing. So I would, do a little loop, stop and play, do a little loop, stop and play. So I know that the change in format was because of the lack of obedience. And I knew that was happening because it was in the premium that the All-American winner, so the high-scoring All-American had to stay. So that was new this year. In the past, it just said that the person who wins the overall has to stick around. This year, it was the person who wins the overall and the high-scoring All-American both have to stick around. So in my mind, it triggered me that the All-American was now replacing the obedience person.
Right.
And since it was 2 agility people, I think what they elected to do is go ahead and use the entire floor and use more equipment because now they didn't have to accommodate the obedience person. So could have they still done the sparkly dresses and the awards? Certainly. That's a big deal. I mean, as a person who's experienced it, and even before I ever experienced it, that was just such a cool part to come to Madison Square Gardens, dressed like the confirmation people and do that. But that's why the format was a little bit different because they removed the obedience.
Do we know
would
why?
not be surprised. Yes, lack of viewers. I would not be surprised if within the next 5 years or maybe sooner, they somehow bring in the fly ball, the winning fly ball team or teams, because it would be so simple to just run out, put up your 4 jumps, run the fly ball and go.
They did that this year?
Okay, there you go. So the fly ball is really gaining a lot of traction with regard to Westminster and the viewers. If you walked around the event, there was a huge following over in the fly ball. And the difference, I was one of the very last dogs to run in the jumpers ring both years, last year and this year. The difference in the crowds was unbelievable. You couldn't hear anything last year. And this year it was like crickets. Like I came out of the ring and I looked at Abby and I was like, was I clean? Because like nobody's there and they were all over at fly ball. So I do think we potentially see a shift of fly ball getting more popularity because it's so fun to watch. It's so cool to watch. So like I said, I know why they changed the finals awards. I don't know that necessarily the format. I don't know why they chose the format. I just know why they changed it. So yeah, no longer do they have obedience.
Okay, wait. Point of clarification for me is when you say viewership for obedience, are you talking about viewership on television or streaming?
No,
or like in person.
In person. In person.
And flyball was getting like substantially more than agility.
Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yep.
Oh well, that makes me a little sad.
Yeah. Flyball did a demo. We went between the first 2 groups. On Monday night, and then Flyball did their demo between the second and third group, and they had to do 8 races in 2 minutes. Was their
wow. Yeah, I did not realize that Flyball stuck around. So see, they're already there. I thought it would be happening, and it's already happening.
That's crazy though, because that's like a cautionary tale that they got rid of obedience. So it's been here. I think did they start at the same year as agility? Didn't they do both of them? I thought it was something like, or it was very, very close where they added obedience into Westminster. So if they
was obedience ever available for like television viewing and streaming and that sort of thing?
Not that
it was never like on Fox. Like, you know how the agility is like, it was like live at 4:30. Right. The obedience was never live on television. I don't know about like the live streaming and that type of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose we still do have like the big television audience, but well, speaking of things that maybe they did not get right, and here I'm not going to talk about Westminster, but I am going to talk about Fox. I'm like, we have to email some people and be like, can you just please like put the tiniest bit of effort into understanding our sport? I don't know if you've seen this, Amber, but there's an article on Fox Sports talking all about Prove It's Win. Have you seen this?
No.
Okay, I'm gonna read you a quote. Okay.
Oh no.
So it says that I'm gonna skip over some stuff, but it says Prove It sped her way through the course in just 29.81 seconds. Just as impressive, Prove It had 0 faults, making it a clean run to victory. Okay, that's okay. That's fine.
Yeah. Except he's a boy, but okay. Yep.
Okay. Then it says, Prove It did not, however, complete the course in a quicker time than last year's winner, Vanish, a border collie who ran it in a blazing 26.49 seconds, the fastest winning time since the event began in 2014. And then it goes on to compare your time to several other winners in different years. So I'm sorry, Amber,
Nimble and truant, and apparently there's just the same course run every year, I guess.
Yeah, I know.
And you weren't close to it.
Yeah.
So,
I'm like, that one quote to me, I'm like, that is such a gross misunderstanding.
Yeah. I think that article, not necessarily that thing, but that concept happens every year. I feel like every single year.
This is the second year.
It's they weren't fast enough.
I think we said
they were
something
fast
about
enough,
this
or
last year.
And they don't understand that the courses aren't being compared. I mean, there was a photo of B in the finals with an Australian Shepherd, gives a high five to her handler before competing. And I'm like, not an Aussie, but so I think that's kind of just, if I say comes with the territory a little bit on not understanding what's going on.
Right. But you think that they could ask somebody who does understand the sport. Like if you were writing an article about something like...
I don't know who wrote it. The other part in here is the 2025 WKC Dog Show resumes Monday with events taking place at Madison Square Garden and the Jacob Javits Convention. The 2026 Masters Agility Champion, Prove It, and the highest scoring All-American dog, Iron Man, will go head-to-head in an agility race at MSG on Tuesday. And so it makes it sound like a hype. I was like, where's the video? Who won? Like, did they run a full course? Like, what is happening?
People kept asking me on Facebook, we saw it. We want to see your race. When are you doing your runoff? And one, it was Sunday. And two, Paul even said, well, we know who's going to win. And I said, what? I don't understand what's going on. What do you mean who's going to win? We're actually like racing. I thought I already won. What? I have to do this again. It was very, very confusing, but it's one of those things that it's a TV show and you roll with the punches and
right.
You enjoy the journey for the experience that it is.
Right.
But I think there was a lot of pet people and viewers, especially our customers that are, doggy daycare people that wanted to see the race. They wanted to see the race, No, like there's no race. Like there was no.
All right. Well, that's a nice way for us to wrap up this podcast is by just poking a little bit of fun at Fox Sports and their articles about our sport. One day, agility will be big enough. I tried to think, I haven't been able to quite come up with something. I tried to think of an analogy with some other sport that would make somebody recognize how ludicrous it is to compare your time. I haven't come up with anything super good yet. I mean, we do have a fairly unique, sport, but, if you think of a good analogy that just really, brings to light, I don't know, maybe comparing the winner of soccer to the winner of football and being like, but the soccer score was really low, or something like that. I don't know. It's just, it amuses me. So anyway, we're proud of you, Amber. Congratulations on your win, even if it wasn't faster than last year's.
Thank you. I'm very proud of him, especially since I bred him and I bottle fed him from day one, being my little singleton. So I'm super, super ecstatic. He's the best dog ever.
Awesome.
And now you get 5 years of a guaranteed entry. That's almost the best part of winning.
That's true.
So
awesome.
If Typo can get in next year.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Amber.
Thank you for having me. It was fun listening and hanging out.
All right. And you have to let us know what other hoopla comes your way, TV and, day shows, daily talk shows, whatever, that kind of thing.
I tried to get Today's Show. I tried really hard, but I think Purina said I might get Sports Illustrated.
Ooh,
that'd be fun.
They're working hard on that one, because wouldn't that really up our sport that, wow, dog agility was in Sports Illustrated? We're like real sport. So Purina's really working hard for that for next week. So fingers crossed for us. It might put dog agility into the next level, right? We're going to be real athletes.
All right. Well, let us know. We'll put a link back into the show notes to anything you do there.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. All right. And that's it for this week's podcast. We'd like to thank our sponsor, Canine Handler Fitness with Liz Joyce. Happy training.
Thank you for listening to Bad Dog Agility. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. For more information, updates, and links to all our socials, just check out our website, www.baddogagility.com. If you haven't already signed up for our email subscription, we would love to have you join the BDA community. Until next time, take care.